I'm going to call the September 21st Airport Commission meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. And Mo, would you give us a roll call?
Commissioner Goodman?
Here.
Commissioner Reed is absent. Commissioner Glazier?
Here.
Commissioner Bowen?
Here.
Commissioner Maya?
Here.
Vice Chair Houghton?
Here.
Chair R. Curry?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Awesome. And do we have any changes to the agenda?
Chair Curry, we do have a couple of changes on consent. Item 9, we needed to make a couple of minor modifications to that. It's not quite ready for the commission. That is the Atlantic Aviation First Amendment to lease agreement. That should come back next month in final form.
Alrighty.
And then I am requesting that we switch the order of items 13 and 14,
Okay.
which for the folks who are here for minimum standards, they'll have to sit through a marketing presentation, which I hope they will find fascinating.
Okay. Well, we've got those changes. Thank you very much. And I'll note that on Friday, September 16th, 2022 at 5 p.m., the Airport Commission Secretary, the ever awesome Mo, duly posted this agenda in the bulletin board of the Airport Commission. So now, if there is any public comment on an item that's not on the agenda, Brian, I would love to look at those. And I think what I'm going to do is ask James Carrigo to speak first, because I know he has a commitment. So he's speaking as a member of the public, but he's kind of substituting for Kyle Richards.
This is on. Thank you very much. I will do my best version of Kyle. I'm going to read a letter from him because I'm doing his report. Dear Airport Commission, I regret that I am unable to make tonight's meeting, but please accept this report in my absence. First, I wish to thank Interim Airport Director Brian Damore for his leadership over the last several months. This doesn't count against my time, right?
No.
We have appreciated that he has been eager to engage with the City of Goleta and hear our concerns. We would also like to offer a warm welcome to the newly appointed Airport Director, Christopher Hastert, and we look forward to working together as partners in our community. As you are well aware, the City of Goleta is located almost entirely within the airport influence area, and the impacts of the airport are felt intimately by our residents. The City of Goleta has appreciated the airport staff and SB City Council's willingness to engage with us to hear and address our residents' concerns, and we hope this collaboration will continue. Regarding the Airport Commission's recommendation on the final minimum standards requirements for aeronautical activities at the airport, item 13 on tonight's agenda, we previously asked airport staff to consider changes to the draft that are not addressed in the recommended final. In particular, there were two changes we suggested in our August 17th letter. One, consider adding clarifying language in the draft minimum standards Article 1 introduction, documenting the location of the City of Goleta immediately adjacent to the SBA and within the SBA flight path. Two, consider including a new section in the minimum standards detailing noise abatement flight procedures. We are disappointed to receive a response from staff denying our requests. However, we appreciate the airport staff's assurances that increased compliance and voluntary noise abatement procedures will continue to be pursued. Nonetheless, we are committed to exploring any and all avenues to see that Goleta residents' needs are addressed. In addition, I'd like to point to the city's letter of August 30th that was submitted as public comment for the Santa Barbara City Council's update on the status of the airport. Many of you saw me speak. We reiterate our request to work with the airport staff to arrange a public workshop in Goleta at which our residents can learn about and voice their opinions about the airport master plan, terminal, and parking expansion plans, and airport noise. Further, I'd like to acknowledge the suggestion made by Councilmember Carriaco and the Santa Barbara City Council's positive response to include representatives from the FAA who may be able to answer questions and provide clarifying information as it relates to noise. Finally, we repeat our request that airport staff pursue the following actions to address flight noise concerns. 1, identify alternate flight tracks for flights from runway 7 through 25 that route aircraft out over the ocean instead of Goleta's residential neighborhoods. 2, seek Federal Aviation Administration approval for the alternate flight track. And 3, impose a flight curfew to eliminate very early before 7 a.m. and very late after 10 p.m. flights. We believe a modified flight track and flight curfews would address many noise complaints and be an important part of longer-term solutions as part of the Airport Master Plan update. Thank you for the opportunity to offer these comments, and thank you for letting me go out of order.
James, you're welcome. Well, it turns out I have some speaker slips on an item that's not on the agenda, and I will call first on Craig Alexander.
Figured I'd get first.
Well, Craig.
Craig Alexander, I'm one of the leaders of a new aviation group, Santa Barbara SB Aviators. It's private pilots, it's the ATC, it's FBOs, it's schools, it's everyone's involved right now. Our mailing list now is up to 250 people. I just want to say Brian was very, very helpful with his communication skills and leadership skills to just get this group together with just the sole purpose of, again, communication and education. And that's all we are about. But again, it was Brian who came to our meetings every month. He let the GA community know what was going on or what was happening here, shall we say. And as the leader of this group, I just can't say thank you very much for all your support and your communication skills. Thank you.
Craig, thank you. Sean Sullivan.
I already emailed Brian, but I'll say it in public. Thank you for everything you've done. He's been refreshing to work with, him and his team. I never felt like I was taking his time. I've never felt like I was imposing on your time, so thank you for that. I already sent it.
Thanks, Sean. Kim Hiltek. How do I pronounce that? Hiltek. Close.
I know you just love this, don't you? Yeah. Well, so I'm with Hilltech Marketing Group, and Chris Vargas, our media director, is here with me. And we actually had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time with Brian through the Southwest Airlines recruitment process, and just really got to see what a thoughtful and gifted leader you are. I think we were actually, I'm giving you a little sneak peek into the conversation we had in the car on the way here. And, you know, Chris said, he said, Brian is really a talented leader. And I think that's what we're left with, and I think it's been a great gift to the airport.
Thank you very much. Grandpa Oli. You walk like a grandpa. You got that.
It hurts. He moved in yesterday. First airport director that ever voluntarily came and looked at the businesses at the airport to see what the hell was going on and gave a poop. It was refreshing. It was great. Wish you were staying. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since this is an item on the agenda, number 3, I don't think it's out of order for me to ask if any airport commissioners have any comments or questions or anything they'd like to add, starting with Carol. I'm sorry. No?
Just want to thank you, Brian. You know, we definitely had some issues when I joined the commission, and I was very, very appreciative of your time and being able to sit down and really talk through how you saw things, and it was very enlightening. So thank you. Appreciate it, and you're going to be missed.
Levi.
Brian, thank you so much for the leadership that you've brought to transition this airport from one administration to the next. And I think, you know, like some of the members of the public have said, you really took your time to understand something that you came into itself, you know, self-admittedly not knowing much about, and I think you've left here an expert, and so we're going to miss that expertise.
Commissioner Bowen.
Brian, thanks for all your hard work. It's just amazing how much you got done, and hopefully that extremely experienced person who beat you out in the competition, I think they have a tough act to follow.
And Vice Chair Houghton.
Yes, Brian, thank you for all what you've done for our city. We appreciate it very much. I think about my 40 years in industry and business, and one thing I've noticed about leaders. Leaders are not anointed. Leaders earn the title, and that you have done. You had some tough issues. I mean, two big issues dominated your tenure here. One was the minimum standards, and you took an engineer's point of view of this. You essentially saw the problem, and you were looking for remedies. And over the last 9 months, you came up with those remedies. We have a document tonight that's really improved over the last year. You're an outstanding listener. You went out to the community and you gathered input and you made the changes that they so much wanted. You're going places. I want you to know, as I mentioned to you on the phone the other day, that the leadership of this city is recognized that you have earned leadership first in public works and now the airport. And that sets you up for a very nice career path for increased responsibility. And just look at this as just another ladder that you rung on the ladder that you're climbing, and wish you well.
Well said. Well, I'd be lying if I didn't opine in my head that a guy who fills potholes is going to come and run the airport. And I didn't say it quite like that, and I know you don't just fill potholes, but I was one of those people who thought, wow, how much experience can this guy possibly have in public works? And to echo what Dennis just said, the most impressive thing is you listened. You reached out and you learned, right? So you can't solve problems without understanding and listening. And something Oli said, which I want to underscore, I've gone around and talked to many of the people who are here at the airport, the airlines, the vendors, people in hangars, pilots. And I haven't heard anybody say you didn't listen to them, not one person. You will be missed. Chris will be welcomed with open arms, and I know you'll help him anytime he needs help. You did a great job. You did a great job. It was a pleasure working with you here. And to cap what Dennis said, in talking directly with the city administrator and the mayor personally, I am quite sure they realize that your star is still on the way up. So thank you for your help. Okay, with that.
I think you missed my slip. I have
Oh,
a slip there.
oh, you did. Oh, good Lord. I'm so sorry. Gordon Feingold.
Hey. Last, but hopefully not laughable. So.
And this was on the, not on the agenda item.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah. So I'm Gordon Feingold. I've been a 48-year user of the airport and general aviation denizen, and been a thorn in the side of certain people here and there. But I was on the Airport Master Plan Committee, and we worked many years to produce that 600-page EIR I think we came out with. And it kind of lay dead and buried for quite a while. And at the recent city council meeting, I was thrilled to see that it actually has maybe resurrected itself a little bit. It's visible, and I just want to encourage the commission to really take that and run with it, and let's see if we can finally get those improvements done. Our GA facilities here, not the fault of the FBOs, but our facilities here are really, really substandard based on all the places I go all over the country. It does not reflect well on the city of Santa Barbara. So let's get that going and move that forward. And of course, I want to thank Brian. As others have said, he was participatory. He came out to our airport, our pilots group meeting. He met me at our hangar down there to talk about the hangars, and to have someone that actually was aware of general aviation, responsive and participatory was absolutely wonderful. And I'm going to miss you, man. Thank you for doing what you did. And finally, since there's the item is no longer on the agenda, item 9 about modifying the Atlantic parking situation, I want to support that. And since it's not on the agenda anymore, I'm going to do it now. So thank you. And thank you again, Brian.
Thanks, Gordon. Alrighty. Let's see, we don't have either liaison here, and I know the one we had escaped. So we'll move on to number 5, report. Whoops.
Excuse me, if there are more speakers?
There are speakers on items on the agenda.
We're not on the agenda. Is noise on the agenda? Because
Oh,
we'll make
that's
loud noise.
a very good point. That is a very good point. Pardon me while I fumble here.
You know, I requested to be on the agenda in July, but then you canceled the meeting.
So we have Gordon. Yours, Cecilia, right? Go ahead, Cecilia. You've got your 3 minutes.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Brian Demore. Santa Barbara Airport is going through growing pains, and we need to keep moving forward. My group is Clean and Quiet SBA, and this is our petition, and we're requesting to be on your agenda. Noise is a really important problem with the residents that live around your airport. We're not from Santa Barbara, and I guess maybe you guys are in Santa Barbara. Maybe you're not affected by the noise, but I have a son who has autism who cannot speak for himself. He's 40 years old. If he doesn't get a night's sleep, we are in trouble. And the point is, you've got flights going out after 11 o'clock at night and several flights going out after 5 o'clock in the morning. We are, what you will read in the Santa Barbara Independent, sleepless in Santa Barbara. You have to pay attention to the problems that the growing pains have caused and be attentive to the fact that all of these people care about their families and children who are not getting any sleep. And these are the things we ask. We're asking for that curfew, and you can just tell us over and over again that the FAA says we can't have one. However, Santa Monica, Long Beach, Ontario, Burbank, they all have it. And I want to tell you that Ontario purchased the airport back from LA. We don't want to go that far. We want to try and solve the problems one step at a time, just like anybody with growing pains. And we hope you'll listen to us. We'd like to have a member of the community on your commission so that they can speak up for those of us who live and are affected by the noise coming from the aircraft. You know, your website states that there are complaint reports and noise reports, but we can't get anything past April. The point is that all these schedules started again in June. So even still, an April noise report is not complying with what the FAA says is supposed to happen. I just plead with you. We need your help. Do any of you live around here? Join Clean and Quiet SBA. We're online. We have a Facebook page, and we've got all these people that care. And this is just a local, we just have local signatures here. There are people that are affected on the Mesa, Hope Ranch, more Mesa, as they're up in arms. We need your concern. Pay attention to our problems, please.
Thanks, Celia. Okay, and I've reorganized the speaker slips here. I apologize if I gave anybody a start. Joni?
I'm gonna pass tonight and wait until the new director.
Okay. And you're Joni, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How about Kitty?
Thank you. And I also thought the new director would be here, but I'll take this opportunity to thank Brian Demore. I've never worked with you. I had that opportunity, but I noted everybody talking about what a good listener you were. And so I'm sorry you're not going to be here to listen further to us, but I hope the rest of the board will. And I also live in Rancho Goleta. I'm part of the Clean and Quiet SBA. And I'm here today to ask SBA to be a good neighbor. I've lived in Rancho Goleta with my husband for about 17 years. It was a wonderful opportunity for us. We have a place right on the lake, very lucky. We love the quiet community, and being on the lake, we get to enjoy being outside, enjoy the wildlife, and just being outside. I'm recently retired and like to have that opportunity. So it was quiet until about the time Southwest Airlines moved in. And they have much larger, older planes that are extremely loud, and they have a lot of flights coming and going out of SBA. And then the pandemic ended, and we have a lot more commercial flights coming in and out. I like to fly those flights. I love the airport. I love living by the airport. I used to fly small planes myself, so I enjoy seeing them. I'm kind of a geeky person that stands at my yard and waves to people as they come and go. Our friends tell us, they always look for our house when they're coming and going. But it's just gotten out of hand with the noise, the number of flights, the loud planes. I don't mind pausing a conversation or a movie once in a while, but it's just, when you just consistently have to do it. If I'm on the phone and say, okay, I live by the airport, I'm going to have to stop this conversation occasionally. It's just too much through the day and night. And it's not only commercial flights, but it's also the corporate. Some of those corporate jets get really loud. And that leads me to other concerns of pollution and safety. So I, as well as many of my neighbors, we're talking a lot more about this now with the, talk of the expansion, but we're seeing a lot of black gunk on our outdoor furniture, our plants, our vehicles, and we're worried about that we're breathing this, and maybe it's falling on us. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. But that's a concern. And then also safety concerns, which probably more about the smaller planes. And I wonder if they are being held to the established flight path, because they're flying right over my house, and I don't think the flight path goes right over my house. So that is another thing I'd like to have looked at. And in this last year, I have seen at least 3 or 4 commercial jets do go-arounds. They're coming in for a landing, and trust me, I hear that engine go, and they're flying out. So that I know they're not going to do that. It's very expensive, very scary for the people on board, I'm sure, and pilots don't want to do that. So it's just another safety concern. It makes me wonder how much traffic, what's going on. I've never noticed that before, and again, I've been here for 17 years. So anyway, that's just another concern I have. And I think that's it because I'm out of time, but I will be back when Mr. Hastert is here. So thank you for your time, and good luck.
Kitty, thanks for respecting my time. And Sam? How do you pronounce it?
Ramirez, yes. Good evening. My name is Sam Ramirez, resident of Goleta. As the previous speakers, thank Brian for his leadership. As we transition to new leadership with the airport, I'd like to ask that staff make the new director mindful of an increasing concern that residents of Goleta have about traffic and operations and noise. I live off Los Carneros, and so I'm equally impacted when there's talk of expansion and noise. And so I think that there's opportunities to, as the previous speaker talked about, being a good neighbor. And I know it's unique in terms of, City of Santa Barbara and airport operations, surrounded by the City of Goleta. And so I think that, I'd continue to ask that there's, more than enough outreach when it comes to operations and expansion, because as the previous speakers noted, this is a quality of life issue for many of us. And so, just ask for that update for the new director to kind of, come on, knowing that, that there are some concerns that residents have about, kind of the operations and the noise of the airport. So I thank you for your time. I wish, of course, Brian nothing but the best in his, future endeavors. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Did I miss anybody that has a speaker slip on an item not on the agenda? I apologize for that earlier. So that's the end of that. The last 2 I have are on items on the agenda. So with that now, we'll move on to item 5, a report from the interim airport director.
Okay, well, thank you, Chair R. Curry. I guess the cat's out of the bag. You all know that I'm not going to be here next month. So that covers that item that I would have addressed under the director report. And it was interesting to sit through and listened to all of that. I appreciate everyone's comments. I've been kind of trained over the years to remain stoic during public comment. So it was especially awkward to kind of figure out how to engage with folks who were giving me praise, which makes me feel uncomfortable anyway. So anyway, it was an interesting experience. Thank you, Craig, for encouraging people to step up and say something.
I'm not sure that's completely genuine, but we could have decided, okay, everybody who doesn't like him, say something.
So, yeah, I don't have much on this item. I did want to highlight a couple of things, though. So we mentioned Chris Hastert, who's going to be starting. The date on that is October 3rd, so that's less than 2 weeks away. And there's not going to be an overlap period, but I'm still part of this organization. In fact, today I decided to wear my Public Works shirt. That's where I'm headed, back to Public Works as city engineer. So a job that I know well and love, but it's bittersweet to be leaving this department and leaving this position and leaving the staff who I've really invested in. So it's been quite a journey over these last 9 months. Craig, I think when you met me, you said I'm too young. I think I might have a few extra gray hairs than I had in January. But
I think my exact words, impossibly young looking.
Okay, it might have been. Yeah, but it's been great, and I want to thank everyone throughout the aviation community and just the community at large for supporting me, helping to bring me up to speed in this role. It's been great. But at the same time, as I'm listening to all these comments, I'm thinking, I still have work to do. I want to get stuff done. So I've been really motivated. We've got some stuff on the agenda today that I'm excited about. A couple of things I did want to share, though, also on the recruitment front. We have 2 key manager positions that we've been doing interviews for over the last couple of weeks, the operations manager and the business manager. So hopefully about the time frame that Chris will be starting, we'll have those positions filled as well. So exciting times for the department, and like I said before, bittersweet to be leaving it at this time, but I'm glad I'm still part of the community, still part of the greater organization, and I will remain invested. Fortunately, as city engineer, I do oversee 2 of the staff who are based here, working hard on delivering a lot of the capital improvements, Brad Cleansing and Phil Davis, who have presented here in the past. So I still have a role to play, and you may even see me at a future Airport Commission meeting. I'm sure our paths will cross. So thank you all, and with that, I think we can move on with the next item.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Okay, item 6, the consent calendar. And I'll remind everybody that the consent calendar, things on the consent calendar are considered to be very typical, run-of-the-mill, plain Jane type leases that are fairly short duration, all within guidelines. And so it's not that we certainly can ask questions and have debate about it. But generally what I do is I read all the items on the consent calendar and then ask for a motion or ask if there's any questions from the, we have no speaker slips. If there's any questions from the commission, and if there isn't, then I make a motion to approve it in total. And the only difference tonight will be that I'll be mentioning that one of the items that was on the consent calendar, as Director DeMoore mentioned, was taken off the calendar. So I'll make that point so Tava doesn't get upset with me. So I'll read the items on the consent calendar now. Item number 6, regarding the minutes. The recommendation that the Airport Commission waive the reading and approve the minutes of the commission meeting of Wednesday, July 20th, 2022. Further, a recommendation that the Airport Commission waive the reading and approve the minutes of the GA subcommittee meeting that was held on Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. And last, under item 6, a recommendation that the Airport Commission waive the reading and approve the minutes of the special commission meeting of Monday, September 12th, 2022. Item number 7 on the consent calendar, property management report for August 2022. A recommendation that the airport receive the monthly airport property management report. And item number 8, a lease, Mark Crane Tree, Inc., new lease. Recommendation that the Airport Commission approve and authorize the airport director to execute a 5-year lease agreement with Mark Crane Tree, Inc. for yard storage space at 40 David Love Place, Santa Barbara, California, 93117, of approximately 11,333, oof, that's tough to say, square feet for a period beginning October 1st, 2022, and ending September 30th, 2027, at a rental rate of 33 cents per square foot per month, or $3,739.89 per month, exclusive of utilities. Those are all the items on tonight's consent calendar, including not including item 9, which was deleted.
Chair Curry?
Yes.
There are a few others. You may have to turn the page.
10, 11,
Jeez.
12.
It's kind of like taking a test. You got to get something right. Item number 10 on the consent calendar, the T2S. Boy, you have been busy. The T2S Property Services Inc. new lease. Recommendation that the Airport Commission approve and authorize the airport director to execute a 2-year lease agreement with T2S Property Services Inc. for office and warehouse space at 6150 Francis Botello Road, number A, Santa Barbara, California, 93117, of approximately 842 square feet for a period beginning October 1st, 2022, and expiring on September 30th, 2024, at a rental rate of $1.60 per square foot per month, or $1,347.20 per month, exclusive of utilities. Item number 11, Avalon Transportation Corp. new lease. Recommendation that the Airport Commission approve and authorize the airport director to execute a 5-year lease agreement with Avalon Transportation Corp. for yard storage space at 20 Jack Perez Place, Santa Barbara, California, 93117, of approximately 24,450 square feet for a period beginning October 1st, 2022, and expiring on September 30th, 2027, at a rental rate of 33 cents per square foot per month, or $8,068.50 per month, exclusive of utilities. Last, but certainly not least, item number 12, subject, establishing customer facility charge for rental car contracts at the Santa Barbara Airport. A recommendation that the Airport Commission do the following. Recommend to City Council approval of the establishment of a customer facility charge not to exceed $10 per contract to be imposed by and collected by all on-airport car rental companies, and recommendation to the City Council approval of the City of Santa Barbara declaring its official intent to reimburse certain airport capital expenditures from proceeds of indebtedness for the purpose of funding half of the Southfield redevelopment project in financing, designing, and construction, the proportionate share of the airport parking structure that the rental car companies will occupy. Recommendation to the City Council that the concession agreements with Enterprise, Avis, Budget, Hertz, Dollar, and National Alamo be amended to include a provision to require the on-airport rental companies to collect a customer facility charge not to exceed $10 per contract for the purpose of funding half of the Southfield redevelopment project and financing, designing, and constructing the proportionate share of the airport parking structure that the rental car companies will occupy. Do I have any commissioners with questions on the consent calendar? Going once, going twice? I'd love to entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as I read it, with the exception that item 9 regarding the Atlantic Aviation lease was removed from the consent calendar.
I move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Well, you guys have been busy. Already, administrative reports. See, that's, yeah. So I would call on the airport director to introduce, we're doing 14 next, right? I'd call on the airport director to introduce and make the report happen for Airport Marketing and Communications Program Update.
Thank you, Chair Arcuri. I will in turn call on our marketing supervisor, Angie Doss, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Interim Director Moore and Chair Arcuri and the rest of the commissioners for being here tonight. I am really pleased to be here in front of you all to introduce you to a couple of our guests who actually already introduced themselves through public comment, but that they'll be doing a bulk of the presentation tonight around our marketing strategic plan, past fiscal year, and looking forward and some of the exciting things that we've been doing through that program. But I just wanted to take a minute because we have a couple new folks on the commission, and even with the folks that have been involved for some time and community members that have known the marketing division's work for some time, there's been a lot of change, especially in the last 9 months. We've had Deanna Zackerson move on from the Santa Barbara Airport, and in doing so, there's been quite a bit of change in the marketing division's workload and the type of work that we've been doing. And when I say we, I mean me. I'm a division of one. But I do have the luxury to work with a few different consulting and specialized agencies in my work that I've been doing. Again, Kim and her team that you'll hear from really helps with that traditional marketing aspect of my work. But I've taken on a few things and expanded a few things that have really professionalized and legitimized the marketing division's work here at the Santa Barbara Airport, and has really focused on a variety of different goals and objectives. So one of those things that I've been able to take on and work closely with our interim director on is our air service development planning and work. We have a great consultant that we work with in that regard as well. I've been able to meet a lot of different people from other airports that are doing that work and learn a lot in that space. And it's a big job, and I've really enjoyed it a lot. And so that is now housed under the marketing division, at least for the time being. Another aspect that I've taken on from Deanna's leave has been our in-terminal advertising and what we now call partnerships program. So we talked, I think at the last commission meeting, we passed a contract for Fuse Connect. So that's our new boutique firm that's helping us with that program. We've completely redesigned that program. It's not just advertising in the terminal anymore. It's really building a bridge from that program into our community development work and everything that we do through community engagement, from very grassroots efforts with schools and education program to our arts program to very high level businesses in the Santa Barbara area, and how we engage them and how we truly partner with them, and community organizations as well, the Chumash population, nonprofits in town. And so I'm really proud of the work that we've done, completely revamped that program. Many of the other staff, of course, help me and support in that, but I've taken that on within the marketing division and led that effort. And so that's been a big one for our division. We continue to grow our community engagement efforts. I think many of you know that during COVID, some of the programming there in those efforts we weren't able to do those. And so as we come out of that and we're recovering and finding success in that, we're revamping many of those programs. Many of them tie into our customer experience inside the terminal, and many of them provide different programs for different types of accessibility needs within our program, some things that we've never looked at before in the Santa Barbara Airport. And so I'm really excited about many of those and hope that some of them will even be implemented by the end of the year, and we'll give updates on those as well. I've also had the opportunity to work with Bob in regard to some of our concessionaire management, the stakeholders there, building relationships, looking at the issues and concerns that those concessionaires have specifically within the restaurant around staffing and needs of our passengers, and what we can be doing to better serve our passengers in that regard. So that's been a fun effort. And I also have helped much with our interim director and some of our operations staff, really building a better bridge to connecting with our in-terminal and aeronautical stakeholders on our airfield, having more open communication with them, building better relationships. It's something that the ball rolls slow on, but is an effort that we hadn't been doing previously at the same level, and something I've been really enjoying in my work, and we've been doing it differently. And I hope to continue that work as the new director comes on and bring more reporting back to you all, and hope that the community is receiving that well. As so far, we've done a survey asking for some input, and we've had really positive feedback in that regard. So we'll continue that work in developing those relationships and listening to our community and supporting the community engagement efforts through all of that work. And that probably sounds like a lot, and that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg there. And so I've the last couple of weeks have been doing interviews to bring on a marketing coordinator. So we will now be a division of 2 with some awesome consulting work or help. And I'm really excited for that person to come on. As you can imagine, there's just already a lot to do. So when I started in this position, I was a coordinator, was promoted to the supervisor so that we could create a division of 2. And so now we will be able to do everything that I've said and more. We have a lot of great ideas, and we'll be able to implement them even more with that second person. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to just speak a little bit more to the work that we do within the marketing division. I think it's something that a few of you know some about, and it's, again, changed a lot. I came into this role with a base already set for me between Deanna's expertise and then also Kim and her partnership. It's a true partnership. It's not a vendor relationship. This is, they might as well just live here because we talk every day and we work regularly. They have professionalized. They've set the base of professionalizing and legitimizing the marketing strategic plan at this airport that has really allowed some positive growth and economic development for this community. And they've also, I didn't come from airports, so they helped me learn the way, because just like everything else in airports, it's highly regulated, it's complex, and it might look fun, but which it is, but it's also, there's a lot going on there. And so I've really looked to the Hilltech Marketing Group, Kim and her team, to be not just partners in the work together, but mentors through the last 3 years. And so I'm just very grateful. But it's my pleasure to kind of pass the baton of this presentation over to Kim and Chris from the Hilltech Marketing Group. They have been our partners since 2017. So I just want to point that out as well. And they'll really take it over from here, but we'll open up for questions, of course, at the end. So thank you again for being here, and I'll turn it over.
Absolutely. Thank you, Angie. We obviously, we've met a few of you before in the past years, and we took a bit of a hiatus from the commission due to COVID. I was going back through our files, and September 2019 is the last time we saw you guys. All you guys, we've been to Santa Barbara many times in that period, but not presented to the commission, so it's good to see all of you in person. I'm Kim Hilltech. This is Chris Vargas. I'm the account director and strategic lead at Hilltech Marketing Group on the Santa Barbara Airport. Chris is our media director. So, Chair, Commissioners, thank you for having us. Thank you for giving us 15 minutes to share our program with you. We'll go ahead and go to the agenda now. Today we're going to be talking about our objectives, our strategies, and then I'll share a bit about the creative. It's just the next slide. Thanks. And then Chris is going to share a brief media recap of fiscal year 2022. So you'll see real tangible results that these dollars created. We'll then share the paid media plan for fiscal year 2023, which is just getting underway. And then we'll close with social media. If there's questions as we go along, please interrupt us, but we will certainly leave time at the end. Mo, we can go ahead and go to objectives. Thank you. Our marketing and communications objectives, and Angie and I collaborate on these each year, make sure if we need any updates. But our focus is to encourage air travel among leisure and business travelers who reside in the catchment area. We say primarily leisure, secondarily business, just because business travel hasn't completely picked up yet since COVID. So we just try to when we're wearing our creative messaging hat, we're thinking a bit more towards a leisure traveler, but certainly not excluding our business. We always want to position SBA as the airport of choice among residents in our catchment area. You all know how competitive this market is. And we will always want to provide demonstrable results from advertising programs, and that's just what you're going to see tonight. We'll go ahead to the next slide. There's one more internal objective, and I think this really punctuates what Angie said earlier, is, this was an objective that she wanted, because this document governs what we all do. It's not just our Hilltech Marketing Group's document. And that was to create new and nurture existing community partnerships, resulting in that enhanced public perception and overall awareness. And, this was added this year, and we're, it's only September in this fiscal year, and we're already making such progress in that area. We'll go ahead and go on to the strategies next. The strategies, how are we going to actually accomplish this? And that's to continue our current creative campaign to increase awareness and recall. Our campaign has nice equity in it. We refreshed it right before COVID, so it certainly did not get worn out. And so we continue with that. We thought that was a wise investment. We want to use paid media to build awareness and consideration among those likely travelers, really prioritizing partnerships that pass booking, revenue, and route data to SBA. How can we use paid media partnerships to get us data to help fuel those air service conversations and also prove whether or not our advertising dollars are in the right places? And we want to use social media to reinforce the access and ease of use message and position SBA as that valuable community asset. You can go ahead. So we'll just click right through to the creative campaign. So just to remind you all, back in 2017, we spent a lot of time going through consumer research that you had, and then some also syndicated research. We came up with the Depart Differently tagline. That has been your brand tagline since then. And it has really fueled our creative development as we go forward. On the next slide is the TV spot that will begin airing on Monday. So you're getting a sneak peek.
Looking to dash away this winter season and escape all the busyness of other airports? No matter where you're headed, Santa Barbara Airport has faster lines and more beautiful spaces to relax. With plenty of non-stops where you want to go, Santa Barbara Airport. Depart differently.
So this spot will run on KEYT, much like our spots last year did, and it also runs through digital video, and Chris will talk a bit about that as well. So we really get action. We can actually track the action from that video. Going to the next slide is these are our transit ads that ran in the spring. They're a little condensed here, but we always talk about minimizing your wait, maximizing your vacay. There's a brand personality that exists here at Santa Barbara Airport, and we always want that to come through in our messaging. Nonstop flights without the stop and go traffic. I really like this incorporation of community pride that we added this year. When you live in Santa Barbara, you fly Santa Barbara. So we really pushed that this year, and I think it was really effective. But we always have an eye towards what our key competitive differences vis-a-vis the competition. The next slide are our web banners. We have two versions running. These are constantly monitored and optimized, so we run more of what's working and less of what's not. Fortunately, both these performed just about equally this year. The one on the left, Skip the Traffic, Save the Money, and it says click to see how much. This takes the consumer directly to our cost calculator on the website. This, based on the traffic that's attributed from our advertising, that's the second most popular page on our website. We bring people to the landing page, and the majority of them continue on to that cost calculator. And if you haven't, or any members of the public haven't used that cost calculator, I would encourage you to do so. If you're thinking about flying out of LAX or Burbank, you can plug in the cost of that ticket and the cost out of SBA and add in your travel costs, and you'll oftentimes see that Santa Barbara is a much more efficient choice. So we really leverage that asset on the website. And then, of course, just echoing that sitting in traffic is not so good message.
Excellent. Kim already introduced me, but again, my name is Chris Vargas. I'm the media director for HMG, and I'm responsible for developing all of the paid media strategies, and I oversee all of the implementation to make sure that the media programs are running as they should. I'm going to walk us through the fiscal year 2022 media recap, which is going to cover everything from July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Next slide. So I know that this is a bit of an eye chart on the screen there, but it's really important that we sort of talk through the amount of media that we had in the market in the last fiscal year. At the start of the pandemic, we immediately paused all of our media so that we we were not wasting any resources, of course, when people weren't traveling. As travel started to rebound, we were very prescriptive about the way that we re-entered the market, really prioritizing digital media programs that were targeting people who were actively searching for outbound travel from the region. As we started to see those trends sort of become more obvious, we invested more money into the media, and that really allowed us to have a very robust program in the last fiscal year. It afforded us the ability to have a base of continuity with a partnership with Expedia, which is an OTA or an online travel agency. And it's a very, very targeted environment. And then we also, as we were leading into just the historical or the traditional peak travel planning periods, we were able to create bursts of activity with additional digital display banners, some video in market, our partnership with KEYT, and so on and so forth. So we really covered a lot of ground in 2022, much more coverage than we'd seen in years prior. Next slide, please. So very high level look at what the paid digital program delivered. Overall, it generated 12.4 million impressions in the local market. And those impressions were, again, really targeting people who we identified as beginning their search for outbound flights leaving the region. So very, very focused impressions. Of those impressions, they generated 11,363 clicks on our ads. And then to the second to the right column there, video completes, 919,000 video completes. What that means is we had online video running as pre-roll. So as we identified these prospects, as they continued their online journey and they wanted to access other content, they were served pre-roll ads. 75% of those users let the video complete. So it really speaks to the targeting and the messaging, really working together to reach a very qualified audience. Next slide. So Kim mentioned that we're always looking for media partners that are going to be able to pass back data to us. And we've really fine-tuned the program over the years. What we're able to capture resulting directly from our digital program was, again, 12.4 million impressions, 11,363 ad clicks, but more importantly, we were able to attribute 10,030 outbound tickets that were a result of our paid marketing. That translated to $4.5 million in revenue to our airline partners. Every single dollar that we spent on digital advertising, it generated $32.64 in return. So we're very proud of these business results and the direction that our digital marketing has gone. Next slide. We're also, through our partnerships, we're able to see top nonstop routes by tickets sold, as well as connecting flights. This data comes directly from Expedia. It's important to point out that it does not include any of our Southwest data or any of the Southwest ticket sales. They just don't share the data with us. So this is a piece of the pie. But our top 5 nonstop routes were Denver, San Francisco, Phoenix, Seattle, and Portland. What is not listed on here is the performance of our Chicago route, which, as we all know, that's a seasonal route. That came in number 6. So, when you think about this is a 12-month reporting period, but it still came in number 6 as one of our top routes. So, I think that'll come in handy as we're having future conversations. We can go to the next slide. So if we look at the connecting routes, we've got 3 East Coast destinations on there. We've got Boston, Newark, and LaGuardia. So 1, 2, and 5 respectively. And then in position 3 and 4, we've got Austin and Salt Lake City. Next slide. So to complement our digital program, we do maintain some local media partnerships, including a longstanding partnership with KEYT. Over the years, we have sponsored their weather programming. We've sort of fine-tuned the program a little bit so that we can create those bursts of activity leading into peak travel planning periods. So what it results in are 2 paid media flights that range from 10 to 12 weeks in the fall and the spring. We get commercial spots that run primarily in local news programming that's going to be viewed live. We also are included in their weather promo, so it identifies us as a sponsor. And then we have these 10-second billboards that give us a lot of flexibility so that we can, it's a short little snippet, but it allows us to talk about new routes, new airline partners that are coming into the market. During COVID, we were, talking about safe to return. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. Next slide. We also, as you probably saw, we generally have some outdoor advertising in the market. In the second half of 2021, we had some activity up in SLO, but the majority of the activity is really focused here in Santa Barbara Metro as bus sides, and then also in Ventura, also as bus sides. Next slide. So as we're looking ahead to the current fiscal year, Mo, you can advance it. FY23, we're going back to our base budget. We spent through the dollars that we'd held back to really support the recovery, so we're back to base. And so what that really means is we've got to focus our budgets and proven ROI drivers. That really speaks to the importance of digital, because those are really what we're seeing. That's where those are driving the outbound ticket sales. To sort of further contextualize the partnerships, we partner with Sojourn, which specializes in travel and tourism in programmatic media. We really look at them as sort of a larger awareness vehicle. They bring prospects into the funnel, and then we're really leaning on Expedia to close the deal. So those two partnerships are really working together to drive the results. And then finally, our traditional media is intended to expand our campaign reach. Our recommendation and what has been approved is to continue to activate select partnerships leading into those peak travel planning periods. So our digital partnerships, again, Expedia, this is a 12-month program. It'll generate 1.9 million impressions in the market. We've got our programmatic digital, which is it's run through Sojourn. We'll have OTT, which is connected TV. So it's video streaming through connected devices, large format. It'll be a nice complement to what we're seeing in traditional TV, but it's very, very targeted, only delivered to people who are in market for an outbound trip. We'll also have video pre-roll, which is a continuation of what we've been doing, and then also our display programs. And we'll have 2 8-week flights, fall and spring. We do partner with NewsHawk. This is a long-standing partnership. What we find is that a small ad spend with NewsHawk really allows us to maximize the partnership in other ways, really through earned media. So that partnership has been a valuable one to us. Next slide. And then on the traditional side, we have a continuation of our partnership with KEYT. We have expanded the program to include the CBS affiliate, which is has stronger coverage in Santa Maria, so that we can really reach more people who have a choice on that end of the market. So it really positions us to be more competitive up there. And then finally, we will have our Santa Barbara MTD ads running on buses in the spring of next year. This is what the flow chart looks like. You can see it looks quite a bit different than the FY22, just due to resources. But nonetheless, we've been very prescriptive in the way that we've scheduled the media.
And one thing I'll add, we can hang on this slide, that's fine, but I think Santa Barbara does have a limited media budget, and over the years we've really tried to be thoughtful, and being able to leverage Expedia as a continuity program. I have to say, in 2017, I don't know that we thought we were ever going to be able to justify a continuity program, and that's really what we want. People are always in the market to travel. It just there are peaks and valleys. So as we continue to build that partnership with Expedia and be able to customize it for Santa Barbara, we were really able to make it work, and I'm very excited about it. So the last few slides are social media. We'll just pop forward to the strategy, and I highlighted this earlier. So we have a talented social media manager on our team named Caitlin, who develops the content calendars. And her focus is reinforcing the access and ease of use message and positioning SBA as a valuable community asset. One thing that's important to know is social media. There's two ways to use it. It's an opportunity to speak to our followers, people who already love Santa Barbara or are interested in what we have to say, but it's also a marketing tool. So we can go to the next slide. We've incorporated paid social into our program, which allows us to target individuals who do not follow us and who live in the secondary catchment areas, so we can be very specific about nonstop routes. And I'll tell you, we have had tremendous success. Just in the last 8 months, we've seen our followers on Facebook increase by 8.4%. Twitter stays a bit flat, and that's sort of the nature of Twitter. We've really been dedicating our resources to Facebook and Instagram because that's where we're seeing more conversions. And then I apologize, that should say 9.3 on Instagram, but we have seen an 11.1% increase in followers in just the past 8 months in Instagram. And actually, in the last 60 days, we gained 348 of those. So there's been a real concerted effort with focus on story posts, requesting passenger story mentions, actually coming out and asking for it, and they've been doing it. When we share it, they then share it, and it magnifies that exposure and generates the follows. And then promoting businesses within the community. Going to the next slide, I'll just share a few highlights from each channel. Facebook, these are our top posts. The post on the left and on the right were sponsored posts. So we put dollars behind these, and we actually targeted, like I said, the secondary catchment. We were very careful to make sure that folks in San Luis Obispo County, Ventura County saw our nonstop route map and understood we could get you where you need to go. The announcement of the Chicago route is the post in the middle. This featured the gate launch, and it was actually our #1 organic post. No dollars put behind that, and we saw 1,800 eyeballs on that. So that's a really impressive post when we think about Facebook algorithms and how challenging it can be to get in front of those folks. So, and that just goes to show people like to know what's going on at the airport. They like to see what's happening inside and behind security. So we always are focused on watching the performance and doing more of what works and keeping that going. Going to the next slide. Similarly, our top posts for the first 8 months of the year on Instagram. Actually, the picture on the left, you can see how we used a really gorgeous picture of Santa Barbara, and that was actually promoting a job fair, a career fair, and people loved it. That was organic. We didn't put any dollars behind that, but it really helped us. We find people want to engage with the airport when they really feel that it's a part of their community. So we do a nice mix of things like career fairs, and then also our second highest reach post was our nonstop flight map, which I always love because I love a good route map. So a little biased there. We do find highlighting locals, people and businesses, and really becoming a community voice has helped our engagement tremendously. And I'll just close with the next two slides. Going to this one, you can see how our most reached stories, so these are the stories in Instagram beyond the posts. We actually shared SMF's announcement of the Santa Barbara-Sacramento route. And by just leveraging having the two airports come together, we reached 502 people, no dollars behind it. And on Instagram, that is a large number. So we then shared a plane spotters post of Santa Barbara and then also linked them to a story about plane spotting. So we double dipped there, and that became a great post for us. And then, of course, the plane pull. I have to say, Angie gets an A+ on that one. That was a monster of a partnership and just an incredibly successful program that we have entered in the ACI North America Marcom Awards. So hopefully we'll hear at the end of October that that's an award-winning event at the airport. But we are very proud of that. The last slide I want to leave you with, I think this is a really, really important part, and something we learned over the last 2 years as we engaged more with stories, is continuing our follower engagement by really focusing on community stewardship, making sure that we're reposting and sharing stories of our in-airport passenger posts, giving shout-outs and tags to individuals or events or businesses in the region, And when we generate content or we share a passenger's content, we always lead with our tone is we're grateful you chose SBA. So it's always a tone of thank you, and we try to call out everyday people so they get to shine in our stories. And it's really incredible the kind of response we get. So it really helps SBA feel like we're an airport for locals, and we showcase the community, and it really differentiates us from the larger airports like LAX. So that concludes our presentation. Are there any questions from the commission?
Carol? Levi? Paul? Got to say something about the plane pool.
The plane pool was so much fun. I organized the team, and it was a great event that brought a tremendous positive light from the community to our airport and helped out for the resource, which was a great one. I was curious, are we going to be doing a booth at the Lemon Festival next weekend?
We sure are.
Good.
Yes, thank you for the question. We will once again be sponsoring the Kids Zone at the Goleta Lemon Festival through our chamber sponsorship and engagement through the chamber there. And we'll have a booth, and it'll be staffed by all sorts of staff from all different divisions, all day Saturday and Sunday. We're doing, and we partnered with Alaska Airlines yet again, great partner for community engagement. We'll be raffling off 2 free airline tickets, so come and visit us to enter, and we'll have some fun swag, and yeah, it'll be fun.
That's glad to hear that we're going to be doing that. And one more question, Airport Day. Years ago, we used to have Airport Day here until it grew into a very noisy event and then suddenly stopped. But we used to do an Airport Day that was fairly quiet and brought in a lot of community involvement. Has there been any thought of bringing Airport Day back?
Again, thank you for the question. And I think it's definitely, as we bring on that coordinator and we can do more community engagement, it's something that's on our mind. So as we have more resources, we'll look into that.
Thank you, Angie.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
My head is spinning. There's so much good news here. It's very exciting. It really is. I just want you to stretch a little more.
Okay.
Maybe you can do something in concert with Santa Barbara Vintners. And so their marketing arm, 50 vintners belong out of Buellton. And they have these beautiful maps of all the vineyards. And it seems to me, whenever I'm involved, I'm involved in the wine industry, when someone learns I'm an airport commissioner, someone says, we could use your help, because they really are attracting people from all over our continent. And so it seems like it would be a nice tie-in. And we have a nice group to work with, and they're looking for ideas and marketing projects. The other thing is, when you didn't report Southwest, I'm saying, my gosh, what an opportunity we have with Southwest, and particularly the Las Vegas flight. There's 3 of them. And I can say on a leap year day, 2021, we took a 7 a.m. flight out of here, and we were hiking to Angel's Landing by noon. And I think if our hiking community knew that would be really significant. If you did a flight map of Santa Barbara to Las Vegas, you would see probably 60 destinations. And where you can go is extraordinary. I flew through Las Vegas about a month ago, and I saw I could even go to Jackson, Mississippi, and Saratoga, Florida, and Omaha. It's really, I think, something that we should be doing with Southwest, and do a graphic showing that, because
The points beyond.
yeah, because all those people in those small towns in winter, they want to come here. But we just have to remind them about that. And then on social media, I'm a LinkedIn guy, and I work with startups here in Santa Barbara, and most of them are spinning out of UCSB, out of their incubators. Boy, it seems to me we should do something on LinkedIn, because a lot of these young engineers, these postdocs coming out, just don't think about still flying to Silicon Valley. They're still driving. And so the planes are here, the university is there.
Yeah.
We just need to increase awareness of these very small companies. These are companies that have 2 or 3 employees. I had lunch with a founder a couple of days ago with 5 employees, and they're still driving. So it seems that we could do more there. So, but wonderful job. It's
Good information.
fabulous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Well, Angie, I wish you would get enthusiastic. And now that you're going to have half as much work to do, I know you can take all that enthusiasm and do 4 times as much work. And Kim and Chris, thanks a lot for that presentation. I have a few questions, kind of in the order I wrote them down. Fuse Connect, that replaced Clear Channel, right?
Yes, thank you for the question, Chair Curry. It has replaced Clear Channel, so their contract had ended back in March. Yeah, and so we brought them on in a short-term contract, help us, get everything in order, and then their long-term contract started in August.
And so they're, thank you. And
Yeah.
they're, where are they based?
They're based out of LA. Their home airport is Ontario. That was where they were founded, and so now, and they come up here a handful of times a month at least.
And so you craft the images that are going to be there, and they, how does the relationship
Yeah,
work?
so they help us build partnerships with organizations that are interested in mostly advertising with the airport or having some type of partnership with the airport. Might be even at a community level, but mostly through the advertising program inside the terminal. The individual organizations create their own advertising. May that be digital or a static or even a new partnership that we have coming up with Made West Brewery. They'll be doing almost a mural-like advertisement in the terminal. And so they have tremendous creative ability and ability to build relationships in ways that are really quite grassroots and very community focused, and which will amplify our community engagement program.
So it's not, thank you, it's not just the digital, it's also the banners.
It's,
Got it.
correct.
And then how does that work? Do they make money from the people advertising, and we get a cut of that, or we make the money and they get a cut of what? How does that work?
So it's a revenue share, and so they do all of the behind the scenes paperwork, contracting, invoicing, receiving payment, and then they cut a check to us essentially every month.
Got it. Cool. Thank you. Data from Expedia. So it sounds like they have kind of the opposite feeling from. So Southwest, I take it, doesn't love sharing lots of information about what's going on with the routes and the popularity and that sort of stuff.
That's right.
For competitive reasons,
they
I'm
won't
sure.
share any data with us.
Got it. But Expedia, that's been an opposite relationship. You've got a lot of hard data from Expedia.
That's
correct?
exactly right.
Basically, any carrier you can book through Expedia is included in there. The only place you can book Southwest is on southwest.com.
Good point. Okay, and then last question. One of the slides I think you were speaking to, Kim, you said 2 8-week flights. What did that mean?
So we schedule the media in 2 8-week windows. So we'll have 8 weeks of media in the fall. We'll have 8 weeks of media in the spring,
And
leading
that's-
into those peak travel.
And that's done during times where
Exactly,
got it.
when
Okay,
people are
cool.
most likely to be planning their travel.
Cool. Thanks. Well, Kim and Chris, thanks for your presentation. And maybe you can work on getting her a little bit more amped up with all that spare time you're going to have soon. Yeah,
It's a good
cool.
partnership. Brian, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Well, last but not least,
Chair Curry?
Yes.
I recognize we probably don't have any speaker slips, but if we could just open public comment, make the ask, and then close it again.
okay, do we have any speaker slips or public comment on the airport marketing and communications program update? So we probably want to fill out a speaker slip on that, yes?
If you can go ahead and speak, and then.
It's a real quick question about the Chicago flight. You said it was a seasonal flight?
Yeah, so that means it just runs for a stated period of time, and then it goes away, and it usually comes back at that same time next year.
Do we know when that one's gonna end? That's the after midnight flight. It ended September 5th.
It ended on, yes, that's
It's
correct.
done.
Yes.
Okay, we'll close public comment on that, and we'll move on to item 13, which is out of order. It's the last item. And then I would ask the airport director to introduce the subject of a recommended final minimum standard requirements for aeronautical activities at Santa Barbara Airport.
Great. Thank you, Chair R. Curry. This is the culmination of my 9 months here as interim director, so I'm kind of excited about this item. Maybe not quite the excitement you got out of Angie, but I'll do my best here. I've put a lot of work into this, and I'm excited that we may be at the end of the road here on this. I think it would be fantastic for the new director to be able to walk into the office that I've been occupying and not be distracted with the minimum standards. I think it was helpful for me to learn a lot about the airport operation by diving into this, but in the long run, airport director probably shouldn't be the one working on redrafting documents like this. But I found it to be helpful to get me up to speed. So today, I think it's pretty brief. I'm just going to kind of go through and highlight the changes that have been made since the last time this was presented. I think it was back in June. So there were some comments from the commission. We heard from the members of the public, and it went to the General Aviation Subcommittee per the recommendation of the full Airport Commission. And we met, I'm not even going to remember the date, so I'm not going to try to guess that, but we met with General Aviation Subcommittee, got more comments from the three folks who are on that subcommittee, as well as from the general public. And I kind of took all that information in and made a few modifications, well, more than a few modifications. They're small. Some of them might be considered significant, but I was just planning to walk through in order the changes that I felt like were worth highlighting here at the Airport Commission, and it pretty much will follow the staff report that you should have in front of you. I'm just going to go in order by article and section and not call out page numbers because some of you might prefer to look at the red line strikeout version while others might be preferring to look at the clean version. So with that, Article 2 was the first place we really had any changes. I'm not going to highlight table of content changes because those were just changing numbers, page numbers. But we changed some definitions too, in particular flight training and ground school. And this was to try to provide more clarity. There was some question about what does that mean, ground school? Does that mean I can't, if I'm a flight instructor, I can't talk to the student while we're on the ground? I think that's been clarified with this new language, but that was the intent of modifying those definitions. That is on Article 2. And then as we go further and look in Article 3, a section was added about violations, and that was basically because I saw the only place in this entire document where we mentioned violations was under the flying clubs, and I felt like, well, that's kind of strange that we're only calling it out there. There should be a place that we put this just in general, and it's very basic language here, referring to any referring to agreements that would need to be in place, and a violation of that agreement would be a breach to that agreement. So it's pretty basic language, but I felt like it was important to have that kind of more broadly covering items in the minimum standards. Then into Article 5, I would call this just some cleanup of a couple of things, nothing really significant. There was some language about transient aircraft parking, having access to the airport runway taxiway systems. That seemed pretty obvious. It didn't need to be included in the minimum standards. So just a little cleanup there. And then there was, I think we separately listed space that needed to be provided for aircraft storage for transient helicopters versus fixed wing aircraft, and just kind of pulled that together, knowing that there isn't a huge demand for the helicopter storage. That's really it in Article 5. Pretty basic, as I said. I think it's just more of a cleanup. And then moving along into Article 7, a couple of little changes there. Under Specialized Aviation Service Operator, we revised language to not restrict subcontracting in that first paragraph, and that really is reflective of what's happening out there today, right? We've got maintenance operators who are out there today, And there are times when somebody comes in over the weekend, they've got a Gulfstream or something that's specialized, and it can only be worked on by somebody with that company. So that necessarily needs to be subcontracted. I think how it was worded before, it was a little bit unclear on whether that was allowed or not. So we cleaned up the language there to make that more clear. And then also in Article 7, there's a section that mentions flight training, and we revised some of the language there to better match the definition that we also changed in Article 2. That's it for Section 7. And then moving on to Article 8, which is independent operators. This has the bulk of the rest of the changes that I wanted to highlight. And starting in, let's see, I guess it's not calling out a particular section, but we removed a requirement for independent operators to provide to the airport director a copy of every notice of insurance coverage provided to each customer, as well as we removed a redundant paragraph that was referencing fees, and we added a paragraph prohibiting solicitation of services on airport property and referring to the city sign ordinance. There were some things in there that felt like they were going to create a bunch of administrative burden on staff if we were to enforce all of these requirements that didn't seem that they were necessary. And then on that enforcement side, I don't know feasibly whether it would be possible to enforce some of those things. So that was the first bullet point in the memo under Article 8. The next one is regarding, it's in Section 8.1, independent flight training operator. We eliminated the requirement to submit logs to the airport director. Again, that felt like it was going to create this administrative burden on our staff to have to be handling those, and then they become public documents. It didn't seem like that was necessary to include in the minimum standards. And then similarly, as I mentioned in the earlier bullet point, we eliminated the prohibition of advertising from this section. And we heard a lot about that at the previous meetings that we've held on minimum standards. The next one, Article 8, Section 8.3, independent aircraft and GSE maintenance operators. And actually these two bullet points are the same. We changed the language regarding major alterations and major repairs to allow that, provided that the airport director authorizes it and that there is a permitted facility that meets applicable fire and safety codes in order to do that work in. And that is for independent aircraft or GSE maintenance operator, as well as avionics or instrument maintenance operator. And then lastly, under Article 10, flying clubs, we simplified redundant paragraph that was referencing fees, so that was similar to what I mentioned earlier in Article 8. And then the policies that are listed, 1 through 8 on there, there were some minor revisions in those policies to get them to essentially line up with publication from the FAA. It's called 5190.6B, essentially matching the guidance that they have provided for airport authorities regarding flying clubs. And then another thing similar to this administrative burden that I've mentioned, the records would be only required upon request. That was another change that we made in Section 10.1 under flying clubs, rather than requiring all those sorts of records to be submitted. So that is the extent of the changes. You'll hopefully notice that some of those things were mentioned by commissioners at previous meetings or members of the public. I've tried to be responsive to the things that made good sense to clean up. You keep hearing me say clean up, make it a little bit better. I think it's a good document as it stands now. I wouldn't say that it's a perfect document, but I'm proud of the work that I and my staff, Tava, who's here, we've got some consultants, have put into this, and I think it's a document that can work well, not just for the administration, but for all of the airport users.
Thanks, Brian. And I know that you folks have been working on this diligently, and I know it's used up an awful lot of time, and I know that time was well spent, and that you really did listen and consider all the input you were provided. Starting all the way down on the left, maybe I'll start on my immediate left, stop picking on Carol. Vice Chair Houghton, do you have any questions or comments?
Just a comment. Seems, I'm approaching the end of my 4-year term, and every meeting I've been to has included minimum standards from January of 2018. So a remarkable amount of staff time has gone into this, and I have to say our interim director, Damore's efforts in listening to the general aviation community has been outstanding. And I hope that you all support him and his staff in the work that he's done here, and then we can move this off of our plate for our incoming director. That's all I have.
Thanks, Dennis. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Craig. And Brian, thank you for all your hard work on this and your staff. At a previous Airport Commission meeting, your predecessor I addressed him and said, if you can resolve this issue, I'll be very, very proud of you. And I'm very proud of you, Brian. I do have a few questions. I think the overall document's really good, thank you. I have a concern with the flying clubs. When it talks in section 8 about them, it says all of section 7 should apply to them, which is a whole lot of things that don't actually match up. So back on page 43, item 4, it requires section 7. It says flying clubs shall comply with section 7 of these minimum standards. And I think it's just it might have been better if it said 7-2 except number 5. So you're not telling the flying club that they're going to have to, I don't know, keep emergency equipment to remove airplanes from the runway, or have business hours, normal business hours. There's a whole lot of stuff that we put in. Now, I'm not sure if we can do anything about it at this time or not, but I wanted to point out this is just one of those little errors that I think we have in our document. I'm not sure if we pass it today as is. I don't think Chris will come on board and start requiring these things of a flying club, because it's clearly a mistake, but I wanted to get on record on that one. I don't know whether we can make it, if everybody reads it and agrees, make a motion to redline it or not, but I realize our ability to do that is very, very limited. And then the other question I had, for independent flight instructors, there's a requirement that they get a letter from the FBO allowing the independent flight instructor to work on their leasehold. And I'm not sure if anybody's asked the FBOs if they'd be willing to do such letter, or whether that's something that could happen, or whether that'll be a default, all independent flight instructors are wiped out because the FBOs might not do it. So I'm just concerned about that. I also recognize the needs of the FBOs to, they've got a lease on our field, and if they don't want somebody operating in their area, it's sort of a balance. But I would very much hate to see that eliminate independent flight instruction at this field. I'm not sure if that was the intent or not. And then finally, just sort of a policy mindset. Everybody gets, I'm hearing a lot of stuff. People are very nervous about fees that'll exist. And it's kind of a question if the airport administration considers it policy to make the fees approximately appropriate to what it costs the airport to administer that item or program. The example being our airport badges. We all pay a little money to get our badge updated, and they're not charging us $500 for a badge. they're charging us about what it costs to run the program for the badging. I'm very much hoping that the airport administration will take the approach that any of the fees in this document are merely meant to recoup the costs of the airport for handling this independent activity or other business endeavor. So I know that's 3 questions all in one monologue. I'm sorry about that.
That's fine. And Dave, I don't know if you were about to jump in or waiting for the signal from me. I took some notes here. 3 questions on that first one. This was something that actually was brought to our attention from a member of the public also. This is in that paragraph 4 in Article 10. And it's possible that we could consider some language similar to what we included for the independent operators. I do agree that referring to the entirety of Section 7 is quite broad, and I don't think we intended that for a flying club to have to comply with all of the requirements of a specialized aviation service operator. I think that's what that section is titled. So we can look at that. I really want to be done with this document tonight. So I'm trying to think how.
Me too. You
how
still
we
have
can
my
get
vote
there.
on this document.
Yeah.
I just needed to raise these issues.
Right. Fees was the last thing you mentioned, and I think in general we've been talking internally about cost recovery. We haven't really honed in on what those numbers are going to look like. So I don't think we need to change anything here regarding the fees. And then I think I've turned the page, so I don't remember what your second comment.
The one remaining that you haven't addressed is we're going to, in this document, require independent flight instructors to get a letter sent to the airport administration from the FBOs allowing them to operate. And I guess I'm just not sure whether that would ever happen or not.
Okay, right. I haven't talked to the FBOs about that. We do have one of the general managers, I think, here today. I don't want to put her on the spot to answer that question. But I think that was put in, trying to remember if we were thinking more of maintenance when we put that language in as opposed to flight instruction. So that's a good question, and I don't know that I have an answer to it right now.
It's good. I mainly wanted to raise it. And one last one that crops up is our ability, if there are unforeseen things like this, we approve this tonight and they crop up, I'm assuming that it could come back to the Airport Commission to fix any perceived problems that happen.
Any month, it could, yes.
Okay. Thank you for your very good work on a document. I'll say it again, I'm proud of you for resolving this one. Well done. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Levi?
Sure, I'd like to also echo some of Paul's concerns about some of the unintended consequences that might arise from this, and just be sure that we have the ability to address those as they're brought to our attention. I think that that's an important part of assuring this commission this evening that we can move forward with the vote tonight successfully. So thank you for your work to get this done, a Herculean task in 9 months from someone who never worked at an airport before. You've done what no one else could, so thank you. I appreciate it. Interim Director Damore.
Thanks.
Just want to say thank you, getting us to this point, echoing all the other comments. And just a point of clarification on the fees, that's a separate schedule that would be a separate action item for us at that point, right? So we can address that then?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Chair Curry and Commissioner Glasser, I just want to reiterate, state law requires that they be limited to cost recovery. Otherwise, it's a tax and it requires a vote. So we do a study and figure out what that actual cost recovery is, and that's all we pass on to whoever it is, the permittees or the general aviation community that needs those permits.
Thank you, David.
Carol?
I can't believe that we're here. This has been crazy. It's taken up so much time. I echo Dennis's thoughts. I mean, it seemed Sisyphean. I just never thought that the ball would ever get to the top of this mountain. For all the people that started working on this over the 4 years, it really was exhausting. And I honestly can't believe that it possibly is over for a while. So, Brian, wow. If you did nothing else, and I know you did a lot more, this is quite something you should be proud of. So, thank you.
Thanks, Carol. I won't take the time to repeat any of the positive comments there. I know the staff, in addition to yourself, has put a lot of effort into this, and it's important to acknowledge that here tonight. And I think at least 2 commissioners opined that it's not that when this is done, that if this were to move on tonight, that it now gets cast in concrete, and it is the forever minimum standards, right? So the ability to affect or change things, typos or obvious things that were too broad exists. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Cool. I don't have any other questions, and at this point, I'll ask for a public comment. I currently have 2 speaker slips, so if somebody else wants to speak that is beyond Vince and Sean, then scurry over and please do a speaker slip. Vince.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Vince Merstick. I'm a citizen of the city of Santa Barbara, and I've been flying in and out of the Santa Barbara airport since the 1960s. And the reason I'm here speaking is I generally agree that the work that Brian has done has been fantastic. But the reason I am using my time to speak is there is one sentence in the document. It sounds like a small amount, and I think it's very easy to fix and could be fixed tonight, which would meet Brian's objective of finishing this effort off. The one sentence has to do with maintenance, and aircraft maintenance is a very important issue. And the current document very wisely gives the airport director the authority to authorize independent maintenance operators to perform major repairs if, quote, it is demonstrated to the airport director that the work shall be performed in a facility that meets all applicable fire and safety codes. This is great. However, in Section 10, having to do with flying clubs, the airport director is not granted this authority for flying club aircraft. And using the FAA definition of flying clubs, this impacts a lot of aircraft on the field. And this not permitting these folks to employ an FAA certified independent mechanic of their choice is problematic. Two reasons. One, it exposes the city to legal actions associated with inability of aircraft owners to obtain adequate mechanical service of their aircraft. And secondly, it's pretty clearly, in my mind, federal grant funds will likely be put at risk as a result of failure to meet associated grant assurance requirements. I can go into that in more detail if you like. But there's no reason for the city to take this risk, and there's a very easy fix for this, and it's simply to remove one sentence, the last sentence in paragraph 4 of section 10.1. And for the most part, section 10.1 as Brian has pointed out, is written in a way actually using the words of the FAA. So it's perfect, except for this one sentence, which are not FAA words, and generate this whole problem of maintenance, which I think is a high risk to the city. So I'm suggesting that perhaps there could be a motion, or Brian can, at his authority, just strike out that last sentence, and I think things will be much better for the city and much better for the community. So I don't know if that one sentence was a mistake in there or what, but I think removing it takes care of the problem immediately, and there needs to be no more time on this issue.
Vince,
Thank you.
thank you. Last but not least, Sean Sullivan.
So, as you all know, I'm the person behind the original complaint, and thank you everybody for all you've put into this. And I will tell you that this document, while better, does not address all our concerns for a level playing field. To allow alleviating of that one sentence opens up all those T-hangers for work to be done in them. I'm speaking on behalf of the other 2 maintenance providers here. There's nothing that the 3 maintenance providers on this field cannot maintain or take care of. People choose not to come to us because, you know, we're a little more expensive because we have overhead. I'm also really concerned about the wording in there. Independent operators and commercial operators, it doesn't seem to clarify one or the other. The way it reads makes an independent operator a commercial operator, therefore giving them a little more latitude than they should have as an independent operator. And then my only other concern is advertising. I agree with them not being able to advertise, but many of the clubs and independent operators use the addresses at this field for their business license and their locations. And I think that gives them the idea that they're a business located on the field. That is a form of advertising by using 601 Firestone Road or the visitor centers. That should not be allowed if you're going to be fair. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Sean. Any other speaker slips? Commission members, any additional questions or comments? Well,
Chair R. Curry, if I may.
You may.
I just was going to jump in and suggest, if we're looking at that Article 10, Section 10.1, Paragraph 4, we could put in language there. I did mention that earlier as I walked through all of this. We could put language in there that would mirror what we're saying in Section 8. There's some places where we mention major alterations or major repairs shall not be permitted unless demonstrated to the airport director that the work shall be performed in a facility that meets all the applicable fire and safety codes. That may be a way to address that concern. And Dave, I want to make sure that if I'm suggesting that language, that's not going to introduce any problems from a legal perspective. I don't know if you're able to to say that on the spot here, or if we should pause and think about that a little bit longer rather than just jumping right into making that change.
Chair Curry, commission members, it's hard to say right on the spot. I do think the language from 8.4, which is major alterations and major repairs shall not be permitted unless it is demonstrated to the airport director that the work shall be performed in a facility that meets all the applicable fire and safety codes. If you struck the last sentence that you were referring to in Section 10, we could add it. Could I say it's never going to get challenged? I think the whole document could get challenged. But if that would make the commission more comfortable in your motion, you could request that change be made, and we would make that change, and then it would go forward to council.
Greg, if possible, I'd like to make a motion that we accept Brian's recommendation as a change to this document.
I would like to propose, so I suppose as part of the motion, if you feel able to articulate exactly what that change would be, then we could capture that change. We could basically say there clearly is a strong desire, I think, on everybody's part to be done with this. Not because we've lost our patience, but because a tremendous amount of work has happened. The incoming director has enough other things to deal with, and you guys have put in the time, and gals have put in the time on this. So I would be in support of that if the motion can be framed in such a way that you can clearly state what that change is. And if we can capture that in the motion and say, with that one change, that change will be made, and then this will be forwarded. And I don't really see a reason why we couldn't do that. Tava?
Chair Curry, commissioners, no, you can absolutely do that.
Yeah, I thought so.
Good.
Reading Robert's rules has actually paid off. I don't see why we couldn't sneak in another speaker slip. Sure.
If you want to reopen public comment for.
Oh, I'll reopen public comment because I think there's a member of the public who would like to speak. Hi, Terry.
Thank you so much, and I hate it that you're leaving us. I just, when you're doing this proposal, maybe we could, as Paul made a really good point, maybe just strike the one letter from the FBO. I don't know why we need a letter, but maybe that would just take out that wording. Just all.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you, guys, everybody. I mean, since 2007.
So I will close public comment again. So Brian, could you, just for the record, think carefully and articulate, and actually I think, Tava, you're going to take notes on this, right? Because we're going to need a clear articulation for this motion. So can you articulate the change? So I propose to make a motion that we take this document as is, with the exception of a change you're about to state, and approve this, and in a way that I hope is unanimous, and move it on to the city council. So that's my intention. Can you articulate what that change would be?
Chair Arcuri, the change would be in Article 10, Section 10-1, under Flying Clubs, Paragraph 4, under D, Policies. The last sentence, which currently says, for maintenance other than preventative maintenance, a flying club shall comply with Section 7 of these minimum standards. That sentence would be stricken and would be replaced with the same language that exists in Section 8.4. It actually exists in a couple of places, but we'll keep it simple here and reference the section in 8.4, which states, major alterations and major repairs shall not be permitted unless it is demonstrated to the airport director that the work shall be performed in a facility that meets all the applicable fire and safety codes.
Who is responsible for correctly, that's a lot to include in a motion. So it seems to me, we're being recorded. You've clearly articulated that. Are there any members of the commission that didn't understand that articulation or have any questions or comments about it? So I'd like to make a motion that we accept this document as is, with the exception of the change that the airport director just mentioned, which involves Section 10.1 4D policy, and move this on to City Council. Are you comfortable with that motion, Tava?
Yes, Chair Curry.
Great.
I feel like I I want a prize.
I'd like to second your motion.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Well, let's see, there's 17 more items to do. Right? Brian, thanks a lot. Really, thanks a lot. And with that, I will adjourn this edition of the Santa Barbara Airport Commission and look forward to greeting a new director next month.